sounds like we've got somebody here in Canada, Icon, he, him. You had a message from God, it sounds like.
Oh, no. Well, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago where I thought and assumed immediately that it was a message from God, but you
Okay.
asked me to take a more scientific approach to it and kind of get rid of some of the other possibilities that it could be. And so I just wanted to call back and let you know how that went.
Yeah, sweet. Where'd you land on that?
Um, well, so the big factors I wanted to make sure is human, that there was nobody else in the house when I received this message.
Sure.
And I verified the only other person in the house was downstairs. Digital, I wanted to make sure it wasn't any devices like a TV running in the background and things like that. And the only device that was with me in the shower was my phone, and it definitely wasn't a message that came from my phone. Chemical was the other one that was more difficult, right? Because I do take THC on a daily basis, so I was high at the time when I got that. I've taken the same dose every day for like 5 years, and I hadn't had an experience like that. I know it's not an excuse. It could have still been that. I'm kind of leaning towards that. But I did do some extra experiments. I went out to a cottage this weekend and took some additional hallucinogens to see if I could get any other messages, and wasn't able to replicate it.
So just because I definitely have a couple of other things I could kind of needle it on, but here's what I want to ask, Icon. Where you just ended, I think, is a really, really interesting spot, which is
Sure.
you kind of went out and attempted to run this whole experiment over again, and you took some hallucinogens, which again, like there's some sticking points there, but let's just move past that. But you didn't get the same results that you got the first time. What do you think that says to you?
That I wasn't able to replicate it and receive another message. Well, that I guess there's no consistency with hallucinogens is what I would say.
Do you think it's important to have that consistency?
Messages.
Yeah, but do you think it's important to have that consistency when we're making a prediction about how something's going to happen in the world?
No, for sure. Yeah, I was just trying to think of another way to test the hallucinogen theory, and so that's what I came up with, is to take some more. But I didn't get any additional messages. So,
do you still think the initial message that you got was from God or a divinity or supernatural or anything like that?
Not God. I have it in unknown. Like I'm gonna say, yeah, I want to say unknown, honestly, because I am high a lot and I never had an experience like that. So
I will say that is beautiful. That's beautiful, Icon. It is absolutely, absolutely incredible when we say, hey, I just don't know. When it's the honest answer, when we don't have good reason to believe something, when we haven't met that burden of proof, just like Kenneth's dragon changing chair to dragon thing. Steve, thank you. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend him. When we have that big question mark, it is abso-freaking-lutely right to say, we just don't know. And then stop. And what I mean by stop is, I don't mean stop investigating. I don't mean stop looking into it further and trying to, well, maybe this and angle this and so forth. But you can't then start to make any additional claims on top of it, because you've already said the most important thing. Hey, we just don't freaking know.
So should I dismiss the message though, or because I'm still running with it?
Well, you didn't. So the first time that this happened, you took some hallucinogens and you got a message, and you initially attributed that to God of some kind, right?
Because I hadn't experienced anything like it before. Yeah.
Sure. And then you tried to recreate something similar, and then it didn't happen, right?
Well, it was different conditions. Like I smoked a bowl before a shower. I smoke a bowl every day and have for like the last 5 years. So I'm not a scientist, but I feel like 5 years is a pretty good sample size of whether you've had an experience like that before, right?
Only if you're doing good tests. only if you're actually doing a good job of trying to
Yeah.
mitigate
the
all the different
controls?
factors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do something and it isn't consistent, right? And this is what we said earlier. That seems to put it on shakier ground. And I think that's a good place to stand for the moment, in the sense of, hey, again, I just don't know, and I shouldn't continue to accept this initial claim when I kind of tried to test it. And again, not saying everything you did was perfect and would be, for a thesis paper or anything. Look, I'm no freaking scientist. But if I drop something on my toe and it was like right after I said a Bible verse and I was like, man, God's stupid. And then like I dropped this bowling ball on my toe and I'm like, oh, that happened because I insulted the deity. And then I do it again and it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean that there isn't something else going on, but maybe that thing that I initially accepted isn't true. And that's okay. That's a good place to be. That's a good place to be, because now you can go look into some of the absolutely fascinating things that may provide a little bit more clarity. I don't know if you know who she hangs around this this wonderful community, this Shannon Q lady. Shannon Q, thank you.
Q Shannon.
Thank you.
Right.
But she has some super interesting discussions about all the wacky, wild brain shit that's going on inside of each and every one of us at right this moment, man. Right this moment, Icon. The crazy things going on inside of all three of our brains are so ridiculous and confusing in and of themselves, that when somebody says to me like, hey, I heard this the other day and there was nobody there and it had to be a ghost, the very first place that my head goes to is how I have that stuff all the time, because we all do. We all kind of feel like we saw something out of the corner of our eye. We all kind of feel like we heard this thing or somebody calling our name. They're like, yo, secular. That happens regularly because of some things that we actually do have really good evidence to accept as true. There's these whole neural pathways and like this whole ATP and like sodium ion, potassium. Again, I'm not the person you should listen to on that, but you're in a place now where you can.
The only reason we should act on a message is if we think the message is from God. Like as soon as we get a message and it's unknown, it should be dismissed. But if
the issue is that
right.
it seems to be the case that you may not have actually gotten a message. That's the issue. It's not even that whether or not it's from God. It's that you attempted to get another message and you didn't get that message. You didn't get anything. And the question now is the original experience that you had actually connected to the real world? And one way you could find some information on that is by looking at that brainy stuff. That's been really helpful for me.
I'm going to add that to my assignment for this week.
I think there's.
Tell you real quick the idea that I came up with to continue my message, or to share.
We are gonna have to let you go because we do have a couple of other really great calls that have been waiting for a very long time, and we'd like to get to every single one of them as possible. But give us a call back in if you want to hang out and wait till myself or Kenneth are back on. Please feel free. But also those wonderful fan-run Facebook groups too. Okay. Go out there and just shout some things and get some feedback from it. That's always really helpful.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Icon.